This is a Global Original Podcast. As you can hear from the echoey sound of my voice, I'm recording this from the room in which the Queen keeps Meghan's photographs. It's completely empty. This week's clips are from the period when the Tories were having a contest to see who would go on to become our Prime Minister and get dibs on ruining the country. They had weirdly decided that the best way to ingratiate themselves with the Conservative voter was to tell us how many drugs they'd had.
This guy is sick. There's something wrong with this guy.
Did Rory Stewart on the news just say that what people want from their politicians is for them to be straight? Does he mean not stoned? I think he's fresh out of luck there. Michael Gove has confessed to take it, and not stoned like hippie Johnny. I'm straight. Get Jonathan Richman on the phone and he'll sing it to us.
Rock and roll!
Michael Gove has confessed to taking cocaine as he became the latest Tory leadership contender to admit to using a Class A drug.
Yowza.
The Environment Secretary broke the law. Guilty. By saying that he took cocaine on several occasions at social events. Now, what does several mean? 50? 100? How many? 2? That's the thing about cocaine. Most people take it and then they never want to take it again. It's just not addictive. The Environment Secretary is breaking the law, or he was when he took it. Let's assume that he didn't. That he's not taking it now. But let's be clear: he didn't inhale, or he didn't like it, or it was an accident, or he was just tidying up and decided to put that pesky powder up his nose so he could dust the table. It was probably something like that. He said, "I did take drugs. It's something I deeply regret." Yeah, he wanders around with his head in his hands. Every waking moment. What have I done? He said drugs are dangerous and it was a mistake. Yeah, like I said before, it was an accident. He tripped over and fell into it. He said, I look back and I think, I wish I hadn't done that. Why? You survived. You're doing just fine. I mean, it's the most interesting thing about him. He almost comes across as a human being now. Almost.
Correct.
Mr. Gove, 51. 51 years old. He made it. He said he didn't believe that past transgressions should prevent him from becoming the Prime Minister, saying that it was 20 years ago. And yes, it was a mistake. But I don't believe that past mistakes disqualify you. And that very much depends. It depends on what his position is on drugs today. I mean, if he's one of those hang 'em and flog 'em types, then yes, it does disqualify you. For arch hypocrisy. And by the way, you'd have to be trying really hard not to take some drug at some point in your life if you've got to 51 years old in this country. You know the European Monitoring Centre for Drugs and Drug Addiction? The EMCDDA? You know them? I'll assume the answer is
no.
Anyway, they examined survey data from all 28 EU countries. All 28 countries in the EU. And they found that guess who has the continent's highest usage rates among young people of cocaine? Just have a wild stab in the dark. Yes, us. Correctamundo. Way ahead of us. We are number one. Steve Rolls, a senior policy analyst of the transformed drug... Oh, blimey, this is way too many syllables. Shall I start that again?
No.
Steve Rolls, a senior policy analyst of the Transformed Drug Policy Foundation... Try saying that off your face. He chided Gove for appearing to trivialise cocaine use despite presiding as Justice Secretary over a system that incarcerates thousands of people a year for Class A offences. Like I said, a little bit hypocritical. He said they are still propping up a system where only unethical cocaine is available and anyone who chooses to use it can get a criminal record and wouldn't ever make it to being a minister. Yeah, let alone a PM. More than a quarter of the people seeking treatment for cocaine addiction in Europe are doing it in this country. What is it about this country that makes us yearn to get out of it so very much? We seem to top the list of every bad survey that you can think of.
Want to score some pot?
That too. As he prepares to launch his formal leadership bid next week, his admission is likely to start a debate over whether Class A drug use should have a bearing on candidates' suitability to lead the country, says the Daily Mail, who almost have it correct. It actually should start a debate about whether there should even be such a thing as a law that tells you what you can put in your own face hole. And by the way, the reason that Michael Gove came out with all this is that there's a book coming out that blows the lid on his blow. Not confession, damage limitation.
Oh, fabulous.
And he's the latest of the 11 current candidates, or the 111, I've just completely lost count, who are vying to be our next unelected leader as we take back democracy, who have admitted to taking drugs. Boris Johnson admitted in an interview 11 years ago he had snorted cocaine as a 19-year-old and had smoked dope before that, before 19. What? Doing that, scientists will tell you, ruins the growing brain. So that answers a lot of questions that we have about Boris Johnson, like who wears the same hairstyle as a 50-year-old as they did a 5-year-old, for instance. Let's just start with that. Rory Stewart, the International Development Secretary, admitted smoking raw opium during a trek across Iran. Jeremy Hunt, the Foreign Secretary, admitted to drinking a cannabis lassi in India, and Dominic Raab has admitted to smoking marijuana when he was younger. Sajid Javid, the Home Secretary, who's also running for the Tory leadership, has smoked crack. No, wait, he's promised to crack down on middle-class cocaine users. Yeah, I got that bit wrong. Should have read ahead. Promised to crack down on middle-class cocaine users who are fueling violent crime by creating a market for the illegal drug, he said. So he's not smoked crack, but he might as well have done if he's still on about winning the war on drugs. Because, if at first you don't succeed, and if you keep failing for decades, here and everywhere else that war has ever been fought, then just keep doing the same thing over and over. That'll work. Ugh. I've had it up to here with a lot of them. And we've only just begun. Get the Carpenters on the phone. They'll sing that to us. They're not answering? Keep trying. 0345 6060 973. You can text 84850. Are these all from now? Are all these messages from the last 10 minutes? Hello? Hello?
Just one second.
Are all these messages from the last 10 minutes?
No, they're from yesterday. They weren't.
Oh, right. That's yesterday's news. OK, let's take a call. Let's hope he hasn't been on hold from yesterday. Westminster. Hello, Mark.
Hello. I'm just listening to what you're saying about all the Conservatives. I say all, that's a pretty broad statement, but all the Conservatives taking drugs.
Yeah.
And
I'd be surprised if there was a single one of them that hasn't done something untoward at some point in their lives.
Well, it's like you were saying, it's the knife crime and what they call county lines and all of that. It's their drug taking is fueling that violence upon the streets in the inner cities. But I suppose that's what they call capitalism.
Yeah, it's business.
It's business. Oh, yeah, definitely. But on Boris Johnson, I heard one of his supporters, grant you one of his supporters on a news programme, when asked, do you think Boris will be the next Prime Minister? They said, oh yes, I think he will be, as long as he doesn't do anything within the next week or so to royally screw it up. One of his supporters.
Yeah, what are the chances of that?
Yeah. Wait a minute.
Yeah, but I'll give you odds of 5 to 1 or 1 to 5. I've got no idea what betting odds are, but if you give me a fiver, I'll give you £100 back if you can make it to this time next week without doing something stupid.
Absolutely, and this is the thing that if he's keeping a low profile at the moment, but if he can't be trusted to not do anything silly within days, he can't keep his counsel for just days.
Yeah.
Is this really someone we want to trust with the country?
Excellent point. Yes. If nobody is sure that he can even make it to the next 7 days without doing something stupid, do we really want to give control of this great country of ours to the mop top? No, is the answer.
To the bozo.
Yeah. He could do something to blow up the special relationship.
I think Donald Trump is clearly out of his mind.
If anybody's got a tape of Boris Johnson saying something that Fat Donny might take objection to, then they should definitely keep it to themselves.
I think Donald Trump is clearly out of his mind.
Otherwise, we'll be in big trouble. All right, thanks a lot, Mark. 0345 6060 973. In other drug news, a dealer left a bag of various drugs with his name and address inside on a tram. In a Facebook post, officers poked fun after making the discovery on a metro link in Bury in Greater Manchester. Police posted a picture of the drugs recovered and issued a mock appeal to reunite the lost property with its owner. Calling Mr. Gove to the courtesy telephone. Got the police on the line. The police said inside the grey rucksack were 25 tablets, a large amount of white powder, small snap bags containing white rocks, and white powder and scales. Scales. Just go straight to jail. Do not pass go. Do not collect to £200. The owner also left a community payback card with his name and address in the bag. Well, who can honestly say they haven't done that? The post on the Trafford North Greater Manchester police page said, police appeal to reunite lost property with its owner. A poor individual has forgotten his rucksack while travelling on the tram on the Bury line. Metrolink have located the bag and have checked for any identification inside to reunite the property with its owner. Inside, 25 tablets, a large amount of white powder, small snap bags containing white rocks, snap bags containing white powder, and scales. Thankfully, the owner of the bag was helpful enough to leave his community payback card and his name and address. Well, I don't know. I mean, maybe this isn't immediately obvious to the authorities, but maybe they'd be better off, going round to his address rather than wasting time searching for likes on social media. And it comes as police and transport officials are gearing up for a big weekend, gearing being the operative word. A big weekend of public events in Greater Manchester, the Parklife Festival. Give up your port life, get some exercise. And Noel Gallagher's playing and Muse are going to be on stage.
Rock and roll!
But I'm sure that drugs will still be available despite this setback in supply. Just a small blip, no need to panic. Or you could just say no. Just say no thank you. I mean, good manners don't cost nothing, do they?
Be polite!
I'm taking you off the air. I think you're having a breakdown.
No, not a breakdown. I'm coming down. I'm on about 3 or 4 Conservative candidates a day now, man. But I can handle it. I'm just feeling a bit woozy at the moment, that's all. Talking of chemistry, the US President, Donald Trump... that still doesn't sound right. The US President, Donald Trump. Can you believe that?
I'm president. Can you believe it?
The US President, Donald Trump, has boasted about having automatic chemistry with the Queen during his state visit to the UK. What on earth does that mean? During an interview with Fox News, he said people had noticed how well he and the Queen had connected. Like he's the Queen whisperer. It's not just you, Donny. Everybody gets the same treatment. And when he said people had noticed, he means that he wants people to notice. You know that more than anybody. That means he's just found out. And the papers that were busting a gut. Did you notice that there were certain papers that were absolutely falling over themselves to heap praise on Donny, just to hose him down with the flattery? I think that the offshore tax-avoiding proprietors of certain newspapers had made a call to the editor saying, you're going to have to treat him as though he is God Almighty. And treat everybody that is out there on the streets booing him as though they are the scum of the earth. I've never seen such flattery. Not since Meghan arrived on the scene have I seen one individual being hosed down with so much flattery. It was just comical. Meghan's back, by the way. She's back. Megan, Kate. That is the news. During an interview with Fox News, Donald Trump said people had noticed how well he and the Queen had connected. And they were just busting a gut, the newspapers, certain individual papers, trying to counter the demonstrations to make some right-wing suck-up point, remarking that the Queen was all smiles. Look how happy the Queen looks. She's always smiling, though, and radiant when greeting heads of state. It is literally her job. Her tiara sparkles, and her necklace sparkles, and her eyes sparkle. Doesn't matter if she's meeting the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, or the rider of the winner of the 3:30 at Ascot, or any one of those asses. He said the meeting with the Queen was incredible, said Donald Trump. Incredible. What, like science fiction, you mean? He says, I think I can say that I really got to know her because I sat with her many times and we had automatic chemistry. You will understand that feeling. It's a good feeling, but she's a spectacular woman. He just fills the air with verbiage. Because he knows that if he stops speaking, people will start thinking about what he said and realise that it's completely meaningless. And so he just keeps talking, perching on the edge of his seat, just babbling like an infant. It's a good feeling, and it's a huge feeling, and it's a feeling that's totally tremendous and huge. Donny said that there are those that to say they have never seen the Queen have a better time. Ever. Thank goodness for Donald Trump, eh? Otherwise the Queen would have been, her usual glum self. You know, what with all the palaces and the castles and the horses and the soldiers and all of that folderol and her Tupperware boxes of cornflakes and what with the billions and billions of pounds in the bank. Yeah, you can imagine how dull and glum her life must be. And then in came Donny. He said there are those who have never seen the Queen have a better time, a more animated time. We had a brief period and we were talking solid straight, he said. He says, I don't even know who the other people at the table were. Well, that's the only believable part of that. I bet he had no clue who anybody else was. He said, we just had a great time together. Oh, my God. Have you ever heard anybody so desperate and needy of approval and attention? Somebody get Donny a dummy. He said she is a spectacular woman and an incredible woman, but not so hot. Maybe a 3.
I cherish women.
With both hands. 0345 6060 973. Is this thing on? Hello? No one's remotely interested in anything I've said at the moment, which includes a wide variety of topics, including the next leader, the next unelected leader, as we take back democracy, who will answer to our unelected head of state, who was goosed, emotionally speaking, by the numpty in the White House. And there's that whole A-class drugs issue. None of this remotely interesting to anybody at all. Just me. Okay, I'll carry on. So, speaking of space cadets, maybe he was just stunned by the light shining off the Queen's jewels. Maybe he's still giddy after being allowed to sit at the big table with the grown-ups. Donald Trump has announced that the moon is part of Mars. What? He actually wrote that down and then released it to the world. He announced it, by the way, in the most presidential way possible, on Twitter. He can be more presidential than anybody, and I know that because he said it himself.
I can be more presidential than anybody.
In a tweet, apparently commenting on his own administration's space policy, the President of the United States of America, our leader of the free world, said, for all of the money we are spending, NASA should not be talking about going to the moon. We did that 50 years ago. He said they should be focused on much bigger things we are doing, including Mars, of which the moon is a part. And then, apropos of nothing at all, he just wrote defense and science, exclamation mark. Honestly, you'd think, I know, I'm just going to put this out there. Is it actually possible that Donald Trump is not that smart? Donald Trump's declaration has shocked many space fans as they did not know that the moon is part of Mars. Well, that just makes them poorly educated.
I love the poorly educated.
When he finds out that Mars is 140 million miles from the moon, Donnie will probably say that he never said that, and anyone who does say that he said it is fake news. Like he said when he was over here, that people who were reporting that there were protests outside, that was fake news. Those people didn't exist. Which will come as a surprise to the people that were protesting. You don't exist. You people are a figment of your own imagination. Just, It never happened. Those protests did not exist. Everybody loves him in Britain land, especially women.
I will be so great to women. I cherish women.
Yeah, you bet he does, with both hands. NASA did not immediately respond to a question from The Guardian asking if the moon is part of Mars. Somebody actually put that call in to NASA. If you call NASA, do they actually answer the phone? Are they in the book? Is there even such a thing as a book anymore? That's going back. It were gone when I were a lad. You used to walk into a telephone box, which is a revolutionary concept these days. You ever been into a telephone box?
Disgusting.
Awful. It's like being inside a urinal. If you're lucky. And there used to be a book there. Sometimes there used to be an entire book there, and you used to wind it out of its thing and look through for a telephone number. And you tell that to the kids today, and they won't believe you. NASA did not immediately respond to a question from The Guardian asking if the moon is part of Mars, because they were too busy slapping their foreheads with their palms. And Trump's announcement was doubly surprising, given that he previously said that NASA should be concentrating on going to the moon. He changes his mind like the direction of the wind, which is one thing that you should keep in mind if you think that we're going to get a huge and tremendous and fantastic trade deal with the United States of America, just because he said so. He just signed one with Mexico, and then he woke up grumpy and slapped them with 5% tariffs. And then the people in the Republican Party who just can't stand it anymore because they're going to lose a lot of money because Mexico is the third biggest trading partner of America, and they're already Donald Trump's already in a trade war with the first two. They said, "Okay, just stop," and so he rescinded. Mexico said, anything you like, Donnie," and he pretended that he won. But anyway, back to the moon. On May the 13th this year, Trump said in a tweet, "We are going back to the moon." He actually said that out. He tweeted it, of course, because that's a smart thing to do.
Trust me, I'm like a smart person.
He tweeted, "We are going back to the moon," on 13th of May. In March, the man appointed by the Tangerine Scream to be the NASA administrator, a guy called Jim, announced plans to send astronauts to the moon by 2024, because Fat Donnie had told him to say that. In October last year, his moon-faced deputy, Mike Pence, the vice president, said, "Our determination is to see Americans back on the moon in the very near future." And then Donnie wakes up grumpy and decides they're not going to the moon after all. Still, it could have been worse. He could have insisted they reset the sat-nav to the heart of the sun. And guess where he got that stupid idea, by the way? It's where he gets all of his stupid ideas. Fox News. The Rupert Murdoch state broadcaster and leading Trump whisperer Fox News, the channel that slathers praise on Fat Donnie in order to make him watch more of it. It's like a hypnotist's watch. Just get him to stare at it with promises of flattery, and then tell him what to do. And it does. On the Fox News Business TV channel, 1 hour before the president offered his take on the moon's origin and his criticism of NASA, a Fox guest called Neil Cavuto expressed his skepticism over a moon trip. He literally said that NASA is refocusing on the moon, but didn't we do this thing a few decades ago? And inside of 60 minutes, after he sees it on Fox News, Donald Trump tweets it out as government policy. Donald Trump isn't the president of the United States of America. Rupert Murdoch is. Because he's the fellow that owns Fox News. A very smart man is taking advantage of a very stupid one. The Guardian says, by the way, this is where I'm getting this excellent story. The Guardian says that in ancient times the moon was worshipped as a god, which, keep that in mind, by the way, when you hear people going on about religion. Worshipped as a god was the moon. Just filling in the gaps in our scientific knowledge. That's what religion is, and that's my religious belief, which is just as valid as yours. In ancient times, the moon was worshipped as a god, said The Guardian, while more recently some children's stories have speculated that it is made of cheese. You know what? I think Donald Trump's hair is made of cheese. The kind that you spray from a can.
Everything is going extremely well.
Yes, why would you think otherwise? 0345 6060 973. Des says, Nick, another triumph for Trump. Mexico is going to put 6,000 security men on the American-Mexican border to stop illegal immigrants. No, you dummy. They're going to put them on the southern border. You, Nick, must hate all these successes that Trump is having after a successful visit to the UK. Yeah, you know what that actually amounts to? 6,000 extra soldiers on the southern Mexican border, 10 per mile. That'll work. They're just placating him like a ranting baby. It ain't going to do nothing. And then Donald Trump, as usual, just takes credit for it, and people pat him on the head, and he takes a nap. Here's a call in San Francisco. Hello, Dave.
Hey, good to talk to you. It is 87 degrees here today.
Yes, thank you, but we don't wish to know that.
Celsius. But here's where the moon tweet came from.
Yeah.
When, Donald Trump was really annoyed that he couldn't watch Fox News in London because it's not on Sky anymore.
That's right.
So he was watching it. He was watching it on Air Force One coming back. Mm-hmm. And 8 minutes before he sent that tweet, a Fox host named Neil Cavuto had just gone on this rant about why are we going back to the moon.
Dave, are you actually listening to this show? I've said all this.
And well, I just literally logged on, and so here's what people in the UK need to know. Donald Trump never speaks while Fox News is drinking water. I mean, he essentially is their little ventriloquist dummy. He just parrots whatever he hears.
Yeah, I'll restate my case, Dave. Are you listening to this show? I've said all this already.
Not only am I listening to the show, but I have gotten everyone here I know in San Francisco hooked on the Nick Abbot habit.
Right. Well, I'm glad to hear it. Excellent.
You are going to get random calls from a state that now has legal marijuana use, so I can't take any blame for what happened.
Okay, well, anything could happen in the next 5 minutes.
Want to score some pot?
Now, can I just check, how long has marijuana been legal in California?
1 year.
A year? Okay, and is California still there?
Sort of. It's let's just say riding public transit is almost a psychedelic experience now.
Wow.
So it's transit and a show, as we say.
Well, it always has been. I mean, nobody rides public transport in Los Angeles because everybody's got a car. Nobody walks in L.A. But in San Francisco, you got trams and buses and such.
Oh, we have all sorts of transit here.
Yeah.
But it's basically it smells like an Amsterdam coffee house on every train you go on.
Really? So wait a minute. So hang on a minute. Whoa, Nelly. So you can buy it legally, but I wasn't aware that you could actually smoke it in public.
Well, technically no, but people do.
Right. Well, technically you can't smoke it in London, but the smell seems to be here, there, and everywhere, baby.
Anyway, great show. You've got a lot of fans here, so be prepared for weird calls.
Okay, I will. Thanks a lot, Dave. Thanks for the warning. Warning!
Warning! Warning!
Some weird calls may be coming our way from California. 0345 6060 973. Some red-eyed calls from callers from California. So California is still there, and I think Oregon is still there, and Washington is still there, and every other place that sells marijuana legally is still there in America, and they're making hundreds of millions of dollars with which they can spend on, weapons of mass destruction or guns and bullets, or whatever it is that they deem best to spend public money on. Schools and hospitals would be a good idea, but what do I know? This says, I wonder where Gove, Stewart, Boris and the others with the drug history stand on the legalisation of illegal drugs. I don't know, but I would bet every item of clothing that I'm wearing right now, I will run into Leicester Square naked if every single one of them do not abide by the war on drugs. I bet they all do, because they're all petrified of saying anything else. Because the Daily Mail will say, what? And then paint them as a loon. We're lagging behind. Even places, conservative, small c as America, is way ahead of us on this. I mean, you ain't going to stop people taking it. And in this country, people take more drugs per head of population than any other country in Europe. I think that's true. Of pretty much any drug that you can name. You go to Amsterdam and fewer people smoke dope there, where you can buy it with a coffee, than smoke it in this country. Isn't that bizarre? What is it about this country that makes people want to get out of it so much? I don't mean physically leave. I mean, mentally leave. Groovy. Here's a call in Chiswick. Hello, Milan.
Hey, Nick. Please do not go naked around Leicester Square.
What an awful thought.
Disgusting.
I was going to talk about Trump, but you mentioned earlier about Rupert Murdoch. It just reminded me. You know, Trump gave an interview to the Sun and the Times before coming over to the UK, and then at the press conference he took questions from Sky and from the Times. Then he apparently had a meeting with Michael Gove. Now, can you name the one individual that connects all of that?
Rupert Murdoch.
Yeah, there you go.
Hey, I got that one right. Finally, I've got a question right on this show. That is 1 out of 1, 100%, I think.
It's shaping the way how things are going to go in the next few weeks.
It is remarkable, but you can pretty much set your watch by it. If somebody says something after flattering Donald Trump on Fox News, that will become American government policy in as long as it takes Donald Trump to tweet it out.
Exactly. And how many lies and incorrect statements is Trump averaging per day, do you think?
I think he's almost up to 30, or has he broached 30? 30 lies a day?
22.
22, right. So it's over 10,000 lies since he became the President of the United States of America. Liar! Chief liar.
Yeah, and one of them, he keeps saying that his dad was born in Germany. His dad wasn't born in Germany. His dad was born in New York. Yeah, even though in his book he said he was born in New Jersey. So he did know.
Well, he also said that his dad only gave him a very, very small $1 million loan to get his business going. Well, first of all, Donnie, $1 million is not a very, very small loan. It's a huge loan. If you can't make $2 million with $1 million, then you ain't trying very hard. But it wasn't $1 million. It was $415 million. If he'd just put that money in the bank and done nothing, if he'd put his feet up and smoked a cigar from the time that he was 19 to now, he'd be worth more now than he is after a lifetime of wheeling and dealing and leaving ruined lives in his wake.
Yeah, exactly. And also, when he was coming here, you know what really annoyed me were Brexiteer MPs or his fans, not just Piers Morgan, going, yeah, do you know what? Trump wants to do a deal with us. He's desperate to do a deal. Of course he is, because he's desperate for us to leave on a no deal. If we leave on a no deal, we'd be desperate to do a deal with anyone, even in the Faroe Islands or something like that. So what people seem to forget, or they're just ignorant of, is that we already do a lot of trade with America at virtually no tariffs at all. America, I think it's either our number one or number two export market, and it's either our number one or number two import market. There's no single country that we do more trade with than America. And the average tariff is something like 2%, something like that. Where is this huge and enormous burst in trade going to come from? Yeah, I know. And then because most of our trade is sort of service, or most of our economy is services. Yeah. So how on earth are we going to go into the American market with our services? Because the American market is tough for Americans. I mean, being a lawyer in New York, trying to then be a lawyer in California, it's not easy. It's really hard. So I don't know how an English lawyer is going to gonna cope.
Plus, I mean, what else we got? We got banking. I mean, we're really preeminent in banking, unless you count New York, which is preeminent-er, and they're not going to fall over and try to make it easy for our banks to do business there. Of course, they're not.
No, of course not. And when it comes to a trade deal, it's going to be America's going to be like, well, you're desperate for a trade deal. We're not going to budge on anything. You're going to accept. You're going to sign on the dotted line, and then you know what's going to happen? You're going to get an influx of loads of cheap rubbish. And
that's right.
A lot of,
if you think we're fat now, just wait till American foods are lining our supermarket shelves. That's our future.
And loads of medicine, which can be very expensive.
Well, that was great. That was just perfect. He either he doesn't know what NHS actually means, or he was just playing the tough guy. But did you see Theresa May's face? She almost sucked her own face off. She was so upset when he said that the NHS would be on the table. Of course, it will be on the table. They're desperate to get their hands into that money. It's the biggest corporation, I think. Isn't it the biggest corporation or entity, business in the world, isn't it?
Yeah,
the single biggest spending corporation on Earth, or at least in Europe. Something like, I can't remember what the exact statistic is. It doesn't really matter anymore. Nobody's interested in facts. So I'll just make it up. It's the biggest corporation that has ever existed, the biggest entity in the world, or the universe, in fact, ever. And that's a fact, because I just made it up. I believe it to be true, so it is.
But I think for healthcare in the NHS, they want to get into the routine stuff, like dentistry or like the routine ops. But if they want to do something complex, I think they'd say no, it's too expensive.
Exactly.
The state can handle that. But I think it's the medicine which they really want to get into. So they want to no caps on prices.
It's like illegal drugs. It's a huge untapped market, and there's very few of those actually left. There's few things that there is an enormous demand for that are not being regulated and taxed by the state. The NHS is one of them, and illegal drugs is the other. And the Americans are going hell for leather to take money out of the illegal drug market by making it legal, which makes perfect sense to me. But they also want to get their fingers on the £100 billion a year that we spend on the NHS. Of course they do. And if you think that that's off the table, and the Americans are not eyeing it up and marking their territory, then you're deluded.
Exactly. And
go on.
Sorry, after you. Go on.
No, I was just going to wrap it up, but you go ahead.
Oh no, I was going to say okay. But have a good evening.
Have you seen any good films lately?
Oh, I've been watching a docu-series. I mean, moving away from films, watching documentaries, which are quite interesting. Probably some quite sad. I like documentaries.
Right. Well, yeah, I like documentaries too, but sad documentaries or exciting documentaries?
Oh, no. One was called When They See Us. It was about the Central Park 5 with the jogger.
Awful. A terrible documentary. Why would you want to dip yourself in that misery?
It's interesting.
Well, yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, it's a bit upsetting, isn't it?
It's harrowing. It's really...
It's a cheap holiday in other people's misery, Milan. Why don't you watch the Antiques Roadshow? It'll make you feel nice. And that's it. If you subscribe to this podcast, the next episode will get squirted up your life as though by magic on Mondays. And don't forget the podcast that I do with Carol McGiffin, in which Carol and I try to solve people's problems while laughing our faces off. If you would like us to have a bash at your problem, then simply send it to the following address: nickandcarol@global.com. That's nickandcarol@global.com. And prepare to be completely satisfied. There's also the podcast that I do, which is called the Nick Abbot Whole Show, which is, as it sounds, the whole show from my stint on the radio with all the news and the ads stripped out, which makes it quicker to listen to. You'll use less electricity and save the planet. You're welcome. Just do an internet search on my name, Nick Abbott, and podcasts, and all will become clear. And I'll be back on the radio Friday, Saturday, and Sunday night at 10. And until then, LB, seeing you.
Bye-bye.